because of the nature of security, the activities are highly known to the members of the public. They are doing a whole lot to ensure that the state is safe and secure for residents and visitors. And now, because security is capital intensive, from arms and ammunition to intelligence to welfare and the rest of them, require enormous resources to be able to achieve the desired results. So to do this, the government decided to establish the Abia State Security Trust Fund. And what happened yesterday was an assemblage of good-spirited Abians, Ndibo and Nigerians, people from all walks of life, who were invited by the government to come and support the vision of the government in the area of donation. So people came in the large numbers, to support that vision. So that was what, in a nutshell, what happened yesterday was a fundraising ceremony to support the Abia State Security Trust Fund.
Let's still talk about the funds raised. I mean, you mentioned that security is capital intensive, and there is no doubt about that. But some people will reference that the governor receives a security vote, and that should have been sufficient to manage the security apparatus here in the state to maintain normalcy in relation to protection of lives and properties.
Okay, so security vote does not come in isolation. Security vote is drawn from your statutory allocation. Every state draws its security vote from its statutory allocation. Okay, and like I said, security is very capital intensive. If you want to purchase a unit of an armored personnel carrier today, I doubt. I don't know the cost, but I doubt if you get a unit at anything less than 200 to 300 million naira. I doubt if you get anything less than 300 million as we speak. You know what it means? In terms business is 3 billion. So when we talk about security, I think you will only think that if you're just viewing it from the perspective of maybe getting vigilantes, getting policemen, fueling their car, sending them to go there and endanger their lives. Security has gone beyond that in this era we are in. So you need formidable institutional structure and infrastructure. If you must fund activities of criminals, you must confront and defeat them. Today, in the past, you had criminals challenging security agents with locally made guns. The one they used to call Okamed here. Those were the kind of guns that criminals used. Today, criminals are using what do you call it? They are using AK-47. They are using their proposed machine guns. The criminals that were demobilized at Ubunabo a few months ago. Government by security agents here, not here, they were neutralized in their numbers, and the millions of naira were recovered. The GPC, general purpose machine gun, and the rest of them were recovered from the criminals at Ubunabo. So what does that tell you? Does that tell you? It tells you that if you go with the mindsets of going with AK-47 to confront this criminal, you just be wasting your time. And to be able to acquire such arms and ammunition that will be superior, to whatever the criminals may have, then you need to go out of it. We need to mobilize enormous resources. Okay, so it's not easy to. Let me give you an example. If you know what happened and what has continued to happen at the Unochi axis of the state, you know that what the criminals did, all the years they spent there, terrorizing the people, was to build a very powerful criminal architecture. That was what they did. And that was why they were able to kidnap people at ease and ask for ransom. And nobody was daring them. But don't forget, I would like to make reference to that. That was where the period of Methodist Church in Nigeria and other clergymen were kidnapped. And the church was alleged to have, that was 2 or 3 years ago, or 4 years ago. The church was alleged to have paid the whopping sum of 100 million naira before they were released. So you know what that means. Now, what did we do? What the government did on assumption of office after setting up the Joint Security Task Force, Operation Crush, was to provide everything, all the resources required. So even acquiring drones, now you can go and you know what it means. The kind of drone that will have the capacity to even identify.
Insinuating, Ferdinand, that we are now looking at the use of cutting-edge technologies.
It's not an insinuation, please. That's not an insinuation.
Is that where
I'm telling you fact of what is happening. That's the direction the government is going, because criminals have become very sophisticated. They can lay their hands on anything. The world is now digitized, and criminals can have access to whatever. So you require the institutional structure. The institutional mechanism will require the resources to mobilize and be able to do it. And we're happy that those who came, of course, agree 100% with the governor, because they have ears, they have eyes, they can see, they can make comparison between Abia and many other states of the Federation, and they will know that Abia is very, very safe to a great extent. Every state of the Federation has its own security challenges. But Abia, if you're talking about the safest states, you can't count the 5 safest states in Nigeria without counting Abia.
Just before we leave the discourse of security, Ferdinand, I mean, if I read the speech of the governor, he was actually talking about the use of non-kinetic means to curb the menace of insecurity, because, I mean, if you push hard on them, that's not the solution in the longer term. That is only on the interim. The longer term is other means. How do you think that is even possible?
So when we talk about non-kinetic means, that's part of what the governor has been preaching. And he did say this repeatedly during the campaigns, that more than 80% of our people are honest people, are honorable people, are peaceful people, are not criminals. They just have a tiny minority who, no matter what you do, will want to engage in criminality. I think he said more than 90% of our people are honorable people. Okay, so what you now do, while you do the needful, they provide the necessary economic enablement, create an enabling environment, create job opportunities, engage youth, okay, in discussions, engage them in negotiations, engage in dialogues, provide them with the necessary incentives, them to get themselves productively engaged. Those measures are the non-kinetic moves, are the non-kinetic measures. But then, no matter what you do, like I said, you will always have criminals. And so those are the people that, you really have to be prepared. So when you see countries, nations acquiring all kinds of, sophisticated weapons, it's for preventive measures. Okay, it's for preventive. You have to be prepared at all times for eventualities. So what the government is doing does not mean that you are preparing for war. Okay. That you're mobilizing arms and ammunition to go and unleash as anybody know. But given the magnitude of what is being done in the state, the level of investment, the kind of investors we are witnessing here, we are experiencing here, you cannot afford to take chances. That's exactly what the government is doing. You can't afford to give room for anything that may have the propensity to frighten people to run away, because nobody is ready to come and invest or operate in an environment that is unsafe and unconducive.
Let's move on and talk about the unveiling of the Abia Export Growth Lab, which is geared towards boosting export of products made here in Abia State, and precisely in Abia. I mean, it looks like an amazing initiative in theory, but tell us, what is the essence? Where are we going with that?
Okay, so it's just to boost exports, to support Abia entrepreneurs. All those are people, the shoemakers in Ariaria, the bag makers, the fabricators, those who fabricate machines, and all the rest of them are doing very well. And this is public knowledge. They've started doing well many years ago. They didn't start today. Now, but the challenge they've always had is a challenge of, will I call it complex, inferiority complex. They are doing well, but because they feel that branding the product made in Abia will deny them the opportunity of attracting big people to patronize them for patronage. So they do all kinds of things. Now, what is the government doing? The government has come up with the institutional framework to support them by setting up the Abia Export Growth Lab at the Ubuntu Polytechnic to standardize their products. And like the governor said, you have millions of people craving for these products. Okay? Now, we cannot afford to allow what they are doing revolve only around here. Yes, we know that some of them still export outside the shores of here, but not, at the level it should have been. So what the governor is thinking, for us to be able to compete in the international market, for the Abia businessmen and women to be able to compete in the international market, they require the necessary institutional support, which comes in the way of branding, standardization. We want to ensure that every product brought to the place meets that international standard, international quality. These people will help you, advise you, help guide you, help standardize your product, and provide you the necessary platform for export. Now, because the government wants to collaborate with them, and like the governor already stated, emphatically stated that what we are doing here is not a revenue earner for the government, that the government is not interested in making a dime from what it's doing at the Union Polytechnic. I mean, the
How is that
exports.
even possible?
It's possible. You see, the government will always tell you that this theory of government has no business in business is wrong. The government has business in business, not because government is expected to come and manage businesses and institutions directly, no, but because the government has to lead the way. The government has to set the foundation. The government has to create an enabling environment. The government has to give the necessary guide and guidance and all the rest of them. So that's what we are doing. This is our own way. And that is why you're a government, okay? And you have countries where some countries, the General Motors and the rest of them, the United States of America, during the recession era, we were bailed out. So these are some of the things the government can use the way to support the private sector, businessmen and women. So what government is doing here is to ensure that these people are, and that is why you have reputable, so including the Afrexim Bank, collaborating with the government. You have UNDP, you have the rest of them trying to partner with Abia State government, because there's no better way of fighting poverty than giving these people the enablement to export their products and earn foreign exchange. So that's what the government did. That if you were there, that you would be happy. You have our people who brought out the shoes, and in fact, the governor was saying the shoe that he was wearing, and of course he wears that regularly. You know, sometimes people saying that because one is a big man, every other thing you wear is imported. So the one he's wearing is made in Aba, but behind it they wrote Gucci. You know what I'm saying? Because of the mindset that if it's written made in Aba, it will not be bought, they will not be patronized.
On the sidelines, Ferdinand, we know that one of the reasons for that perceived inferiority complex is equally the issue of producing substandard products. The governor was emphatic when he said, you have to look at this very part. If anyone fails, do not approve it.
Yes.
And how is it going to be possible? Are there going to be oversight by the government directly in this particular aspect?
Of course, there will be. You know, there is a way we do this kind of thing. This is exports. Because if you produce and nobody's buying, you will not be encouraged to produce more. So if you, as a shoemaker, you realize that when you produce something that is of standard, because they have the skills, that is the truth. You know, sometimes the packaging is poor, the finishing rather is poor, because you just want to do it. But when you know that a pair of shoes that would have sold maybe at 15,000, when you export it, 15,000 is about $10, right? So when you export it, you may be selling it at $20, which is 30,000 naira. And now knowing that if it is not well packaged, if it's of low quality, that you will not be able to export it, then you will be forced to do the needful. So they actually have what it takes. So government will give the necessary guide, necessary support, the necessary assistance, the necessary advice for them to do the needful. And it is in their interest. So that is what the government is doing. And we are convinced that it's going to be a huge success.
Let's stay with the issue of entrepreneurship and Aba, because the National Sports Commission Chairman Malam Shehu Diko was in the state on Wednesday, where the governor again called on the NSC boss for them to patronize made in Aba products. For the onlookers and those who have been around, they do not think that the governor has actually prioritized the issue of projecting made in Aba products enough like successive government, or are these perceptions, are they wrong?
Okay, so, you know, facade can never be fact. What you are doing is institutional. You can say, we're projecting made in Aba. You do the media. Media has matters. Every minute, every day. The day you leave office, the veil would have been removed and people will begin to see that nothing was actually done. Anything, any vision, anchored on projecting made in Aba, that is not institutionalized. It's a waste of time. It's a deceit. And we're not ready. This government is not ready to indulge in deceit. Okay? How do you support made in Aba? We do talk about the Aba Export Lab that has been built. You set up pure, powerful institutional structure. Government-backed institutional structure. Enabled and supported by reputable institutions. So, you are doing something that will outlive the governor. But if you say that you're supporting made in Aba and you pick 3 persons, you say you're taking them to China to go and learn how to do shoes, they come back here, you burn them at a rare. You have done nothing. First, create the enabling environment. The government's philosophy is that investors are not emotional. They only go to a place that has been prepared for them. So what the government is doing here is building that institutional structure, institutional framework, institutional atmosphere that will be sustainable, that can give these businessmen and women the enablement to succeed. So look at our trajectory, look at our activity. So we are not interested in every day we go and gather people, we make noise, you say you're doing made in Aba. Where is the made in Aba? Where is the institutional mechanism? Did you put it? Can you mention one?
So what we are saying is natural. It's naturally being done by the administration.
Absolutely. The process is on and we are seeing it. What happened a few days ago at the Women Polytechnic is one of the such initiatives. Do you know when that thing started? It started in 2023. In 2023. That was one. So you don't want to begin to make noise. You want to do this. When you get at the incubation stage, you take your time to structure whatever you're doing. Once it materializes, you unfold it and members of the public will see it. So from every angle you look at it, we are prioritizing the well-being and welfare of our people by building the institutional structure that will help them, succeed.
All right, let's talk about the issue of allocation coming to Abia State. Well, if you're just tuning in, it is the platform, the pinnacle of all discussions, where we are looking at key issues involving Abia State government and governance, especially deliverables which are meant for the people of Abia State. Let me come back to you, Ferdinand. If you don't mind, what's the federal allocation coming to Abia State as of now?
Federal allocation has never, whether under Governor Joseph Carlo or Governor Tiojo or Governor Kezik Bazu or Alex Oti, had never been static.
Okay. But what's on the average?
It hovers. Sometimes 15 billion for the state. I don't know what the local government receives, and in that range, so it fluctuates. It goes up and down. I don't have the specific number, but that is how it is. You can't say every month the state receives 20 billion. It's not possible. It doesn't work that way. And because the oil is a factor, it's a determinant factor.
The reason I asked that is that Governor Dr. Alex Oti has actually urged the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission to increase the allocation coming to Abia State, and that will help in infrastructural development and creating that enabling environment, the infrastructure as well, to better the life of Abians.
Yeah.
I mean, dissenting voices will say that since the removal of fuel subsidy, the allocation coming to state governments, the subnationals across Nigeria, have actually tripled or even doubled, which is perhaps enough to do all those things the governor is asking for increments to do.
Okay, so when you experience inflation, it's holistic. Okay? And so the essence of the removal of the fuel subsidy, which of course everybody believed was a scam, was for the government to have more revenue and be able to tackle infrastructure and other needs of the people. But it came with its own consequences. Somebody who was getting, maybe was receiving a salary of 50,000 naira, and today maybe you're receiving a salary of 100,000, it's just almost the same thing. Because of inflation, the spending power is weak. So now people were being paid 30,000 minimum wage. Here they couldn't implement the 35,000. Okay? Today, what are they receiving as minimum wage? It's free from the same allocation. Basically, 70,000. So you don't talk about the other allowance, you talk about the consequential adjustments. That's number one. When you look at the cost of running government, you don't need to be told that everything has skyrocketed. So those who are desirous of drawing a one-way traffic analysis, will tell you receive such amount of money. But the question is, what's the number of your civil servants? As of last year, it was 67,000. The people that were here were telling us it was about, I think they were saying 30-something thousand. But how did they pump in thousands of people 1 year plus before they left? Because the ones that were just removed were the ones that were famous. But they had secretly employed thousands of people illegally, and they weren't paying them. So you have the civil service that is ballooned, terribly ballooned. What will the governor do? You pay them. So what you just do, sanitize the place, look for a way to manage the situation. So you have a lot of things. Now today, the cost of executing a project is not here. Everybody is affected in one way or the other. Go and bring the regulator to come and do a road for you, and they'll give you a cost. You run away. So it's go and price a ton of asphalt. Compare between just 2 years ago and now, you see more than 300% difference.
Isn't that where internally generated revenue comes in? I mean, most persons were thinking that because the governor was coming from the accounting institution, he would have been well knowledgeable on how to improve on the state's internally generated revenue. And ever since his assumption of office, it doesn't seem as though it has improved. Or has
it has improved, more than doubled. It's a fact.
Okay.
It has more than doubled. The facts are there. The figures are there.
But the government then focus on improving its own internal.
It's a process. Don't forget that you don't collect the revenue from spirits. You collect it from human beings.
Okay.
And the government's position, and when you talk about tax, he will tell you tax is government's share of the prosperity it has created among the people. Okay, so first, don't forget, when we started, first of all, kept the issue of tax away to focus on, doing something visible and verifiable, something impactful before we begin to talk about us. And of course, the government that the government has started collecting is the process, and that is why we have this partnership with Access Bank. Okay, now because we do not want to unleash touts everywhere. It's a challenge. The truth is that it's a challenge when you don't want to unleash people to go to every corner but then we are encouraging our people to pay their taxes. The government is trying to, bring some level of sanity in tax collection. Because when you want to generate this, but don't forget that it's human beings and the people you want to even collect the tax from, how are they faring? That's the question. The economy is in a shambolic state and everybody is affected. So the person you even want to pay tax is also struggling. But that is not to say that the people will not pay. But we do not want to go about it in the way it was done in the past. If very many people were coming to here, if it were in the past, this your office, you would have seen 10 demand notices on the door. That was what it used to be. But now government has synchronized everything. It has synchronized everything for it to be done in a very decent way. You don't use to be harassing people left, right, and center. We're not interested in doing that. So it is improving. It's going to get better. We are nowhere close to where we should be, the area of revenue generation. But we are experimenting a lot of things to ensure we get it right, and we're doing that.
Ferdinand, let's talk about the payment of entitlements to disengaged staff of Ogbonnaya Polytechnic. As a 2018 to 2022 report suggests that they have begun receiving their payment. Is that true? How many of them so far?
The report is very correct. We last week reported, I think 260 something or thereabout.
Okay.
But they just started, so people are receiving. It's a fact, and the subject of verification. It's you can run your own independent investigation. People are getting it, and all the people that were affected will receive it 100% as has been approved by the governor. The people that were disengaged, they weren't doing any agitations. They were frustrated. They had agitated when they were disengaged by the former government. They were angry and frustrated, broken. The truth is that the institution was overpopulated. The government admitted a lot of people they didn't need. They didn't have any reason admitting, and it was just for political reasons, for election, and like what they did in 2018 when they employed 5,000 civil servants immediately after the 2019 election. They were sacked. So that was fraud that should not have been associated with any government. But the governor also understands that these people didn't employ themselves. Then the staff they were disengaged at the Ogbonnaya Polytechnic, and given the economic situation, the governor, in his wisdom, was empathetic and felt the need to assist these people by at least paying them what they were being owed. They were being owed before they were sacked. You can't employ somebody, train somebody, and they pretend to have the person as your employees, and after years of work you disengage them. It's pure fraud. Like I said, such a thing should never have been associated with any government. But that's our sad history, and that is what the governor wants to write. The checkered history that he's trying to write in Abia State. That's part of it too. The people are receiving their arrears. Nobody forced the governor to come up with that idea, but he felt it will impact the economy positively. He felt that it would help give the people this sense of relief which they desperately desire. And we're happy that we are hopeful that everybody that was affected will receive their pay.
Relief, you said, Ferdinand. That's what the pensioners who have been waiting for the governor to revisit the memorandum of agreement, which is in relation to written of gratuities. Of course, the governor said not too long ago that he was going to revisit that during a church service, I think at FMC or thereabout. Ever since, it appears the trail has gone cold, and the pensioners have been waiting, looking up to the heavens and asking for help. When soon would this happen?
Okay, so when you make a promise, what the governor does is if he says he will do this, he starts the process. Immediately the governor made that statement. The next few days we had the State Executive Council meeting there, and then he set up a committee and gave them an instruction that in line with the promise he made, let the process begin. And the process is very much on, I can assure you. The people that are involved are in their thousands, I hope you know. So it's not something of a few hundreds of people. Thousands of people are involved. So the process is very tedious, but the most important thing is being handled. And once it's tidied up, it will be made public and the people will be communicated. They're informed. I just had a meeting with some pensioners a few days ago. I did reassure them that the process is on and it will definitely happen.
You made a publication recently about buying of PVCs by agents of politicians. Can you clarify that. So who and who have the government found out that are buying these PVCs, taking sensitive information from these PVCs, all in a ploy to plan for 2027? Clarity, please.
Okay, so we investigated it and found it to be true. And of course, we traced where, to a great extent, where investigation is still ongoing, but because some of the victims have been identified, it happened more in Abia North, and the government is determined to henceforth bring the perpetrators to justice. The people who are doing it, of course, have stopped after it was brought to the attention of the government, and the government responsibly responded.
Found the politicians who are culpable for this?
The investigation is ongoing. Names, we know how to handle it anyway. We know how to go about it. It's politics. They want to play dirty politics, and we're under obligation to stop them. The government is under obligation, has what it takes to stop them. Okay, so you don't go to people, and that's what they were doing. They will tell you they want to create e-wallet for empowerment. They want to identify your polling units and all this. So they need information from you, and they intentionally went to the vulnerable and less informed rural dwellers to do this. So it's an atrocious thing that shouldn't be done. No matter the election you have in mind, our people here must not be shortchanged. When the time comes, whether it's a House of Assembly, House of Reps, Senate, governorship, presidential election, the people must be allowed to freely choose those that will govern them. Governor Otti'S emergence was not a creation of electoral fraud. It had never been. Have never embraced that. That is a fact from 2015 to date. So we continue to play by the rule. So if you think you are popular, if you think you've served the people well, you are popular enough to galvanize the people, go out there and speak to them, show them what you've done, convince them of your character, of your capacity and everything, and they will decide whether to support you or not. But when you begin to apply fraud, deceit, then no. You should know that this government will not allow you to get away with it.
You
so
said,
that is. So I will leave it. Yes, I will leave it. I will leave it. Yes, it is, because we've established people who were approached and they were deceived to furnish them with their details. That is fraud. That's what we are saying. But here, I will leave it at that for now. I will leave it at that. That's the most important thing. So I know somebody called and we were talking about what the former commissioner for finance said about increased allocation. People who do not have something to offer will always
Let's continue to get reactions, Ferdinand. There are comments on Facebook, and the phone lines have been buzzing as well. Prosper Kelechi Oba on Facebook, he said he's representing from Aro Ajatakri in Ikwana. He said, for me, whatever that is good is worthy of praise. Governor Alex Otti'S is doing massively well and has a good political reputation and laid a good legacy for Abians, but should needfully put smiles in the faces of the senior citizens in the state. Kinsley Nwachukwu on Facebook says, with Governor Alex Otti'S, I believe that if God wants to change the country called Nigeria in seconds, it is possible with someone in Nigeria, not even with an angel.
So, like I was saying, in 1999, Imo State had a governor. All the states had governors. Okay, but you can't compare the performances of the different governors. For example, Udoma built Udoma State. Chief Atiku Udoma built Udoma State. The workers' secretariat, the massive workers' secretariat that is still standing today, and no way, was built by him. He built the Olu General Hospital. He built a standard market in Olu. Many projects. But they were his colleagues that didn't do anything in the whole states. Was it not the same allocation that they were getting? So when people do not have anything to offer, just like somebody was responding and mentioned Paris Club reform, then Mr. Oliako, the former commissioner for finance, was talking, they received 22 billion naira as Paris Club reform. He has given out the state government any fund that the same government has assumed. What did they do with the money?
Back to the phone.
Of course, it was squandered.
An allegation. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, my name is Chile Dobila. They call me here. I brought a mama.
Mama. Look at the flow.
What you were talking is good. I didn't listen.
Look at the flow.
For the road infrastructure and other things is good. But we have one ask question, because when the governor was doing campaign, the governor tell us, say, the local government money, you allow the local government to run. But now you can see a lot of money coming in. Like, women are not most time in months, they get 400 something million. I want to ask you, is it this money, is it the local government chairman handling this money, or the money is going to the state? Because for 4 months now, these elected mayors, they are not doing anything to me. The councillors are not doing anything. So I want you to tell me the change in council, because the government is doing well. What about the chairman, the councillors?
Okay.
So please, I want you to clear that for me.
The question is this on security. Say for instance, Uturu, we are almost go every week.
We have traditional rulers in that particular region called it through. We have security officers that's under the military. We have the military checkpoint along those areas. But despite all these security men and the traditional rulers, crimes, kidnapping and other things are going on.
Some of the responsibilities of the local government is primary health care. They are the ones that pay primary health care workers. They are the ones to pay them. They are the ones to take care of everything that has to do with primary health care. Primary school teachers, they are the ones to pay primary school teachers. The traditional institutions, they are the ones to take care of it. Now, let me use them as an example where I come from. Bende has nothing less than 70. I think you should be close to 100 primary health care centers. Bende alone, close to 100 primary health care centers. Okay, so people think that health care is just the structure, just like the primary health care centers that the state government just built. It's not just the structure; it's the equipment, the functionality, the personnel that you have there. Now, if you look at the equipment that are being put there, if you check the cost, the question will be, can my local government actually fund it from this allocation? The answer is capital no. You cannot. If you to beg them, this is okay, state, take your hands off the primary health care. Again, the equipment you are buying for one primary health care is 400 million. So if you multiply it by 13, that's one word. I'm talking about one per word. So you multiply it by 13 words of Bende. How much will it be? So there will be over 5 billion. I'm just talking if you have one. But you have some words in Bende that at the moment 3 are being renovated and equipped. So what I'm just saying here is that local government autonomy must be encouraged by everyone. But there should be emphasis on, we want to talk about separation, we completely agree. But the way you provided with the resources, enough resources to be independent. If not, that will amount to intentional or unintentional destruction of the local government system. Because if you break it down, if you understand, if you're discerning enough to understand their responsibilities, you will know that they do not even have the resources to pay that. I mean, after paying workers. However, I completely agree that there should be greater emphasis on taking governance to the grassroots. Beyond the other things we are doing, there should be water, there should be electricity, there should be good roads, rural roads, farm roads must be taken care of. So what we would do, we are not claiming to be infallible. We claim to have gotten everything right with respect to relationship or handling of things at the local government. But we can do much better than we are doing. So the collaboration has to be intensified. We have to think inside the box to ensure that we get everything right there. Security, yes, that's my brother from Nachobo. Talked about the situation at the Uturu and environment. It's unfortunate, you know how Uturu is located. Uturu is an Abia, but the south part of it is in Imo. Just like you have Okigwe there, that is in Imo. You have Imochi, local government, shares borders with Imo, Anambra, and Enugu. More than it even shares with its own reason. So you see a lot of criminals. I'm sorry to say this, a lot of criminals straying from Imo into Abia. Just like recently when our commissioner for commissioner for lands and housing, Chakachuku was attacked. It was in Imo. That was why even the security were handicapped and they had to communicate to their colleagues in Imo. They were the ones in charge of investigation and everything. Of course, that is how it is done. So we have our own challenges here, but what you said is also in order. But we don't want to begin to accuse security agents of being involved or traditional rulers. I don't even know what any traditional ruler will gain by trying to enable insecurity. So we will continue to increase the tempo, and that's the essence of the Abia State Security Trust Fund, to be able to have the institutional mechanism to be able to confront these criminals with drones, with intelligence gathering, setting up all kinds of things that are required to overcome the security challenges. We are going to get better.
We are running faster now. I want to draw this curtain to a close. Thank you very much, Ferdinand Ekoma, Special Advisor to the Governor on Media and Publicity. Thank you for coming.